Thank you, Noga. Can everybody hear me okay? I am not at my best. We arrived in the United States yesterday, and I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm okay, but if I make mistakes, please have patience with me. Thank you for that invitation. I am always delighted to talk about validation, which was developed by my mother, Naomi Feil, back in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, before I get too much into it, I first want to know, what do you know about validation? What are your ideas about it? And those, well, it's a very mixed group. There are a lot of experts here in the group. I see Oran and Galit, and I thought I saw another validation teacher somewhere, but they will skew our results. I have a little poll for you, and it's about your impressions or thoughts about validation. And the reason I want to start with you is because that is the key principle in validation. We always start with the other person. Their needs are more important than my caregiver needs. And that sounds really simple, but we will discover that that's more complicated than just saying the words. So if you could launch the poll, please. And just take a moment to answer the 4 questions. You may need to scroll a bit.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Do you see the poll?
No.
Okay, just a minute. That's because
Launch.
we launch. And now?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to, there are 4 questions in the poll. You need to scroll down. And at the end, just don't forget to click submit or end or something.
Submit. And when you see that all the responses are in, would you show everybody the results?
Sure. We're at 40% now, so I will wait a little longer.
Having this information is very useful for me.
People are still answering, so I will wait another half a minute.
Sure.
Okay, so
Let's see.
And the poll. And
Curious. Oh, half. Okay. And number 2, can you scroll down? Oh, or maybe I have to scroll down. I have to scroll down. So number 2 is 62% no. and 38 yes. And question 3, mostly yes. And number 4, 62% no. And 38 yes. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we will come back to those responses a little bit later, but those questions touch on some critical validation principles. If you could throw up, please, PowerPoint, it's 2 right now. One of the most important validation principles is that we should accept people as they are. Oriented or disoriented, it doesn't matter. We accept them as they are, and we cannot try to change them. And the reason for that is, can everybody see the PowerPoint? If you cannot, yeah, okay. By the way, if there are questions or you want, something's not going right with your computer and you need to communicate with us, it would be great if you could do that in the chat, because I know Netta and Noga are checking the chat for questions or problems. This principle sounds very simple, but it's often not, because it means that when an old lady is saying, I have to leave right now, my children are calling for me, I really have to go, that try to change their mind. You don't tell them, oh, your children are grown up now, they're okay. And you don't go the other way and you don't say, oh, your daughter called and she's going to be here a little bit later. Unless, of course, that's true. But we don't lie and we don't try to change their mind. We don't try to take their emotions away from them. We accept them as they are. Next PowerPoint, please. This is a kind of cool principle. Disoriented older adults live on several levels of awareness, often at the same time. And what that means is that lady who wants to go home to her children and sees her children in her mind's eye also knows that she lives in a home and her children are big. She has 2 levels of consciousness going on at the same time. Her emotional need is driving not a hallucination, but a visual image that she sees clearly in her mind's eye. Am I getting a little too esoteric here, or am I clear so far? I'm okay? Cool. I think we've all experienced this at some points in our lives, where our emotional need drives one awareness, and yet on the other level, you know something's not possible. Okay, let's go to the next slide, next principle. There is a reason behind the behavior of older adults who have cognitive decline. And there are many different reasons for them. And the 2 examples that you see here have to do with identity and feeling useful. And those are 2 very, very crucial, basic human needs. Now, I know all of you are professionals, so when I talk about basic human needs, you understand that. If I start talking about Erickson's life tasks. You're probably familiar with those. Those are all connected. As we reach very old age, we move into a different phase of life. And it's not about producing things. It's not about creating new things. It's about making peace with the life that you have led. And Erickson called that finding integrity. I know some of you may know that my father just died last week. And one of the things that I have appreciated the most watching my father in the last decade, he was 92, was here was a man who struggled to make peace with all the mistakes he made in his life, and he made a lot, but he made peace with it and he found integrity. So when he died in peace. And that is the goal of validation. Really, that's it. That older adults can work through whatever they need to work through with us as accompaniment, not as a guide to lead them and not as a follower, but just somebody to stand next to them and say, I'm here with you. You are not alone. And I want to hear. And I feel with you. That is validation. Next slide, please. Ah, my favorite. Painful feelings that are expressed, acknowledged, and validated lessen. They get less. Those of you who know Carl Jung, you'll be familiar with this phrase here. And you know this is true in your own life. When something irritates you, say somebody at work does something that's really, in your opinion, it's absolutely wrong, and you're angry. And you say, I can't express that anger directly at him or her, and I don't want to bother my colleagues with it. And so that anger gets swallowed. And then you take it home with you. And what happens? For some of you, you'll say, you know, that son of a at work, and then you let it out with your partner, with your whoever you trust. But some may live alone and not have a good friend, and they keep it swallowed up. And the next time that angry thing happens at work, it gets swallowed and it goes down and it becomes something in your body. And it's sort of like an ulcer. For those of you who are nurses, and it just gets worse and worse. And the more you push it down, the worse it gets. And finally, when you get to very old age, you all know things change in the body as we age. Your hair, your eyesight, your brain gets smaller. We lose brain cells. So emotionally, we also change. Our needs change. And suddenly that anger from 30 years ago is coming back up and needs resolution. Is that clear? So often very old people who have always been good girls and boys and they never expressed their anger, suddenly they're screaming in the hallways. Suddenly they're swearing and doing things they never did before because that pressed down emotion is painful and it needs to come out. And they just need somebody not to make it better, because we can't make it better. It happened 30 years ago or 50 years ago or 80 years ago. We can't make that better. But what does make it better is just to say, tell me how angry you were. Tell me what a son of a gun that guy was. I'm with you. And that is also the heart of validation. Just being with that person in that moment, hearing and feeling with them. Any questions? If you want, you can write in the chat, you can throw up a hand. I'm easy. Clear so far? Outstanding. Could we show, I've got a little video clip with Hebrew subtitles. Could you click on to there? And I would like for you, please, to take little notes about what do you notice, okay?
Hello, Mrs. Simpson. How are you doing?
Well, I'm not doing so well today. I need to go shopping and they won't let me out.
What do you need to shop for?
What do you mean? I always shop. What do I need? What a stupid question. I have to get food for my family. You know that. Your father, God rest his soul, he's a hungry man. He needs to eat and they won't let me get his food, and I have to get his food. And if I don't get there soon, those other yentas, they're going to get her.
So you need to get out of here.
I do. I have to get out and she won't let me go. She just won't let me go out. And also, well, anyway.
It's really hard on you being inside.
I'm stuck. Some bell here won't let me out. Doesn't realize I have to cook food for my family. She doesn't have a family. I'm not surprised that nobody wants.
How many people are in your family?
Well, there's my husband and my 2 little girls. And yeah, and I always have an extra one for Irma. Irma is our good friend. She always comes. She helps me with the cooking and baking. And so we have about 2, 3, 4 or 5 people I have to shop for.
Right.
I can do that. I always shop like that.
And you did it every day?
Yes, every day of my life I went. Well, on Shabbos I didn't go on Saturdays,
Right.
but I went on Good Friday. It was okay. I went
Right.
then.
Huh.
Yeah.
And so now when you can't go out because it's dangerous, you feel totally lost, or?
I do. I feel trapped. That's how I feel. Trapped. That I can't even go out of my own house and do what I need to do in my own self. That I'm like a prisoner, prisoner in 2nd Avenue.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I am.
Did you ever in your life have to go through something like this before?
Well, I think a long time ago, I couldn't go out. You remember when President Roosevelt, he got polio.
Right.
And everybody was afraid of getting polio, that it would spread. Yeah. And we didn't live far from him. I love President Roosevelt. Well, anyway, yeah. So I feel a little better now. I feel much better, but yeah.
What helps you when you feel trapped and you can't do what you want to do?
Well, I sit and I pray.
You pray.
I pray. God always listens to me and helps me. I know he does. And I say, dear God, please help me get through this. And I will, yeah, that's what I say.
Can I stay here for a few minutes while you pray, and maybe we can do it together?
Okay.
Mrs. Spencer needs someone to listen to her feelings.
Okay, we can stop it here. cut the video. So I would really appreciate it if you would to write in the chat what you noticed. I guess individuals could say what they notice as well, so long as it's one at a time. I'm interested in your insights.
מישהו רוצה לפתוח מיקרופון ולומר מה ראיתם בסרטון, או לכתוב בצ'אט?
Viewing, right.
Hi, can I speak?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Asnat, and thank you for today. I saw a lot of reflection through the conversation, and we actually saw how the reflection helped the emotions. She was very anxious at the beginning of the conversation, and slowly she became much calm. And she actually, by the conversation, gave her the tools to make this emotions less anxious.
Thank you. In the moment, acknowledged. Yes.
You can see some answers in chat, Vicky.
I see. I can't read the one that's in Hebrew, of course.
She acknowledged her feelings, and through the conversation, she became calm, more calm.
Oh, cool. In the moment, yeah. You guys are very smart, I have to tell you, because you're hitting on every single important thing. Right. Well, in just a moment, we're going to do an exercise that I find is really the most important in validation. And that's centering. And that's being in the moment, really. It's finding that quiet space inside of you where you can put aside the and my kids and my husband and my work and my this and my that and I gotta do the shopping and if I'm here, I absolutely cannot hear another human being. I can't see them in who they are because I'm so busy with my own stuff. So we call it centering, but if you practice mindfulness or meditation or yoga or whatever you call it, I don't really care. I just care that everybody here develops a practice, that every human being needs to find their way to, okay, later. And you do come back later to your feelings and thoughts because those are important. But your own feelings and thoughts can get in the way of making a connection, an honest, deep connection with another human being. And that's not just for old people. I do it with my husband. I do it with my kids. I try to do it with you guys here. It's something that works every day in your life. Am I clear? Okay. So what I have is no arguing. Exactly. No, I am reflecting. I acknowledge what she says, and I do that, but somebody else said rephrasing. I did a lot of rephrasing, staying in the moment, acknowledging her truth. I don't lie and say, oh, yes, you're right. And I don't try to correct her. So diversion is a method you may know of, or deflection is not part of validation. We don't do that. Nor do we confront with reality. That's reality orientation. We don't do that either. Because that's not what she needs right now. What that woman needs is just somebody to go, what? Tell me. and she felt trapped. And the minute somebody listened to her, she could go, because she wasn't alone. Okay, clear? Great. Can you hit PowerPoint 6, please? And remember, oh, echoing. Somebody said echoing. I like that. Yeah, so what is validation? We know it's not lying, it's not diverting, I've pushed a lot of things out, so what is it? It is a method for connecting and communicating merely with older adults who have some forms of dementia. And validation is, as you can see, a basic attitude, and that attitude is one of honesty and integrity, meaning I'm not going to lie because I know the other person knows I'm lying. I have the utmost respect for the older adult and believe that on some level they know what they're doing. And I use emotive empathy. That means I take on their emotion. And because all human beings on this planet share the same basic emotions. We all know anger. We all know sadness. We all know loss. We all know pain and happiness. So we know what that, I may not have lost my husband, but I've lost a father. So I know what loss feels like. And if you haven't lost a father, you've lost a dog or you've lost something important to you. Can we have somebody muting? I'm hearing a voice in the background.
כולם, אפשר לשים את עצמכם על מיוט בבקשה?
Thank you. I'm very easily distracted, so I'm sorry.
We all are.
Okay, so there's this whole theory. Naomi Feil put together a bunch of principles, and the way she developed the method was very practical, pretty much putting together ideas using a validation group with the severely, back then, because we're talking the 1960s, they called them senile demented. We don't use that word anymore, but what she always says is the theory came later. She used techniques first that worked with the people in her group. And then later on, she said, oh, why did that work? And then started looking at the theories. The goals of validation are really important because they connect to the principles. And the theory also gives us our vision of aging and what it means to lose your cognitive abilities. And of course, the techniques are verbal and nonverbal techniques. And by that, we don't mean what we say or not say. Naomi's talking about the client, the resident, the other person. Does that person communicate their needs and feelings verbally, or do they communicate them non-verbally? So we always see it from out the perspective of the other person. Okay? Cool. It's very important that everybody here knows that the validation method is more than just the basic attitude. It's a lot more than just being empathetic. I often say that my mother was the godmother of person-centered care, because she was really, back in the 60s and 70s, no one was talking about stepping into the shoes of an old person who had dementia. But she was saying, we have to do that. They can't cross the street to us. We have to cross the street to them. Okay. Let's go on to PowerPoint 7, please. So now we're going to do the most important technique in all of validation, and that is to center yourself. So if you mute yourself, everybody unmute.
יש שאלה במיוט, אם יכולים בבקשה, יש הרבה רעש.
נטע, אני אהפוך אותך לקו-הוסט, ואז אולי תוכלי גם לעשות את זה בעצמך. אוקיי.
תודה.
Thank you. All right. So taking a deep breath through your nose and out your mouth. And in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And imagine, please, a song or a sound that gives you a feeling of fulfillment, of being resourceful, that fills you with energy. You could also use the word calm. And as you inhale, that sound that's in your head vibrates gently and goes down your spine, carried by the nerves, in harmony with your body. And breathe in, and the sound or the song, maybe it's a hum, maybe it's a whistle, maybe it's a little piece of your favorite music, and it just carries on down to your sit bone. And now send that sound vibrating through your legs, past your knees, ankles, and into your feet. And with another breath, go back to your shoulders. Let the music sound hum through your arms and tingle out your fingers. Tinkle, 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 tinkle. Allow the music to fill your head, out your ears, out the top of your head. You feel in harmony and energized. And when you're ready, come on back. Okay. Now, I hope that exercise was useful for you. If it wasn't, I apologize. I'm really sorry. But I've got a million of them, and they are all on our YouTube channel. I'm afraid we don't have them all in Hebrew as yet, Hopefully we will get them subtitled in Hebrew. But if you go to, now where is it? I have it here. If you go to that link that I put in the chat, it should open up at the Validation Training Institute YouTube channel. And we've got a ton of good materials there and a lot of how-to center. So go to the how-to series. We also have a series in our Validation Training Institute Hebrew YouTube channel, which maybe Noga, you could send the link in the chat, and that way everybody could have both. I want to, I'm looking at the time and I see I'm starting to run out of time. I wanted to give you an example or several examples of places I've been that I think they have integrated validation on their work floor. They have integrated validation everywhere. And it's not that everybody is certified as a validation worker. It's that they've integrated the attitude from the cleaning person to the chief administrator. Everybody works with that ethos. So I was in a nursing home in Austria, of all places, and I was walking through and I was doing an evaluation, and a caregiver had a pile of towels and she was heading down the hallway and she saw a lady sitting in the corner, sort of bent over like this, and she was humming and singing a little bit to herself. And the nurse who was going down the corridor saw, stopped, sat on the floor next to her and started singing with her. And the lady leaned up and started singing, and they had this wonderful little moment. And then the caregiver said, "I'll see you later." And the lady said, "Okay." And the nurse picked up all what she was carrying and moved on in, 2 minutes. That was important. A different home in a different country. I was looking at the dining hall and there was a couple of people, residents, just sitting at tables. And I watched from afar a carer walking, and he looked and he saw that this lady was bent over and looking sad. Now, he was maybe going on his break. I don't know. His job was not her. But he saw and he stopped and he went, "What's going on?" And they had maybe 2 minutes together. He didn't try to change her. He didn't move her. He just had a moment with her and said, "I'll see you later," and then went on. I thought that was a great example of integrating validation into everyday life. At another place, I did not see this. I heard this from a colleague about a hospital in Germany. They have set up a group of volunteers who are all trained in validation. And anytime a person who has dementia comes in, especially through the ER, somebody at home, they fall, they break a hip, they're brought into the ER. On intake, the lady calls up to what they call the green ladies. These are those volunteers. And a green lady comes down and validates that patient through the doctor's appointment, through X-ray, all the way up to the door of the OR. And when that patient comes out of the operation and out of the ICU, of course, that green lady is there on a special department, a special wing that is only for people with dementia, for post-op care. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that amazing? Can you think of all the delirium they will not have? I mean, awesome. Ugh. Oh, and sorry, one last one, because I love this story so much. There's a lady in an Austrian nursing home. She, every day, and everybody knows this, she gets up, she has her breakfast, puts on her hat and coat, gets her handbag, and goes out the front door because it's not locked or protected. They're in a small town. And there's a bus stop right outside of her, the nursing home. And she waits for the bus. The bus stops for her. The bus driver says, "Good morning, Mrs. Smith." And she steps onto the bus. She has her seat right up in front. The bus driver takes her on the complete route around wherever it is and drops her back off at the nursing home and says, "This is your stop." She says, "Thank you very much." She gets off the bus and goes back in. Isn't that awesome? I mean, to give people that freedom to do what they need to do, I found that extraordinary. And of course, there are simpler things that you can do. There was a nursing home that had a lot of the men had worked at the same factory building cars. And the head of the nursing home went to the factory and said, "Do you have old parts, old machinery that you're not using anymore?" And the factory said, "Yeah, we just tossed this away." So he gathered it all and created a work corner. Now, every day the guys would go there and they would futz around with the materials, but more it became an interaction between them. Extraordinary. So these are good stories. What do you pull out of them? What are the critical elements that everybody is doing in these stories, whether it's the caregiver or the nursing home director? Choices were made here. And please write in the chat or say it out loud, whatever you like.
שרוצה להתייחס יכול פשוט לפתוח את המיקרופון ולדבר.
Creativity. Yeah, that's a nice answer. And there's something in Hebrew that I can't read.
Meaning, they have meaning. The solutions are meaningful for the patients, maybe.
Meaning for residents. Yeah.
עוד מחשבות בעקבות הסיפורים שרוצים לכתוב בצ'אט או לומר?
I can say hi, Vicky. I would like to say that what I take from your stories is keep it simple. And what I mean is that often when we think about validation, we think you have to be a nurse or a doctor. But what you show us is that it could be very, very integrated in the work of all the team. And we have to think about how important is the carer and the person and the family that's all the time with the patient, and how they could be a very, very great element in integrating the theme and the thought. And because all your stories, you brought simple things that a lot of people can do. Maybe they will have to go through a lot of work with themselves, but they can do it. It's not something that is unreachable. And I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Read. Wiki in Hebrew in the chat, meaning something like accept the person as he is, not trying to change him or how he behaves.
Hi, Vicky. I'm Shai, and I'm a geriatrician serving right now the head geriatrician of the largest HMO in Israel, and with our 660,000 65 plus, 10% of which are suffering from dementia. It's very interesting to see the way you present the way and the approach, which I like personally very much. When you're looking at the institutional level, the shortage of people and the fact that we are able to recruit only people who are less educated and not paid well. You know, I was looking at this whole thing and I thought it's really a dream, but something that for us to achieve would be almost impossible. We are right now trying to import 4,000 people from abroad to do the job in all those nursing homes. And so I'm asking you about how do you implement this whole thing under such severe situations, because it's really, it's great to hear, but I'm not so sure it's so easy to implement.
I totally understand what you're saying. And please know that your situation is not unique to Israel. That I hear the same things in the United States, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Austria, France, similar issues. Learning validation doesn't take a lot of smarts. Doesn't take a high education. What it does take is the willingness to have empathy. That's about it. We have training courses for all levels. All the theory I gave you today, that's because I know you are well-educated people. But remember what I said at the very beginning, all our trainings are geared for the other, for the person who is learning. So I'm not going to talk about Erikson and Freud and Jung with a caregiver who just wants to know, what do I do with Mrs. de Klerk when she's spitting at me, right? They need something now. And the now is, well, first center yourself and then observe what is going on with Mrs. de Klerk. Well, she looks angry. Right on. Okay, you know what it's like to be angry. So then ask her, what the hell is going on, Mrs. de Klerk? And use that voice tone, because that means you really are in tune with that person. And that is, I mean, there are people who can't have empathy for whatever reason. And those people should not be working with this population. Put them somewhere else. You need people working who have a heart and aren't afraid to use it. And I'm not saying to cry all over the place all the time. That's not what I'm saying. A validation session lasts between 2 minutes and maximally 10. You know, the length of time it takes to sing a song with an old person. To put an arm around someone and just give a few comforting words. That video you watched, that was 3 minutes long. That's it, 3 minutes. It does not take long. It does not take an academic background. It just takes a bit of heart and training at the level that you need. What we've discovered when integrating into a facility, whether it's a hospital or a nursing home or a daycare, is it's got to come from the top and it's got to come from the bottom. You've got to have everybody on board with the philosophy. You have to have the director saying, yes, this is important to us. And you have to have staff who are open to working that way and support along the line. Eshel can offer training. VTI can offer additional training that we do mainly online. We don't do in-person training. But there are things that you can do right away. Share the YouTube videos. They're wonderful. They're simple, they're short, and they cost nothing. That's a great way to begin. Then I would like to encourage you all to sign up for the Validation Training Institute newsletter so that we can send you we send out a newsletter every 2 months, so it's not overwhelming. Let me put that in the chat. Copy. That's the newsletter. And something that some of you might be very interested in, especially if you want to do staff training. We took Naomi Files' last few workshops and we edited it into a documentary. And it's 3 hours long, but it's broken up into 3 parts. I didn't do it right. I don't know, Noga, if you have, I'm just having trouble.
So maybe you could send it later and I will send it to all the people that are here.
One last try. It's just because I'm working on a laptop and it doesn't have the mouse and the keyboard the way I'm really used to. I had hoped to meet you all sitting in my office with my nice professional background, and here I am sitting in my daughter's kitchen in Rhode Island. But it's a very pretty kitchen.
The sun is up, I see. It's light.
Reached the end. So that's all I wanted to say. Now I want to open up to questions.